Done.
Hello, hello, hello. So let me just click the last few things. Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this lovely session. I'm reintroducing these interviews and these chats to share with you knowledge, outside of nutrition. There is so much we can learn to help ourselves. So for those who don't know me, I'm Sandrine Olmy from Savoir-Faire Nutrition. I run the Hormone Harmony group, and I'm really, really pleased to have a special guest today called Sarah-Joy. Sarah, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I'm very pleased you're here today.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Sarah-Joy Lendon. I'm actually a dental hygienist and therapist. And I've got a real passion for prevention. So I've been in dentistry for about 25 years now. And the one thing that always comes up is, but why did nobody tell me this before? And it doesn't matter where you work. I've worked in so many different environments, and that statement just always comes up because I'm particularly keen to teach people about dental disease, the impact it will have on them, and what they can do to prevent it. So that kind of passion has taken me forward to create the Virtual Hygienist, so that I can help people in an online format. And partly kind of brought on by the fact that we're just absolutely overrun, and it's really hard to find a dentist. So if we can take some of the pressure off of the clinicians and bring it outside of the surgery, that will benefit us as clinicians, but it will also, I think, benefit the general population, because sometimes it's quite hard to kind of listen to preventative advice when you're in the dental chair and yet half your face is numb and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? So yeah, that's kind of where the idea came from. And yeah, I love talking about teeth. Weirdly.
Excellent. And we came across each other in I think it was a networking group, and for me, being over 40, and every time I go to the dentist or hygienist, actually, she's kind of telling me off every time. And even though I do what I need to do, and I think COVID didn't help, obviously. But to be able to, I leave the dentist surgery, feeling rubbish about myself, basically, and to be completely honest. And when I came across, your services and what you do and how you help people, I just thought, oh wow, what a kind of breath of fresh air in a way, in terms of learning about this, because just like nutrition, just like hormone health, we don't learn these things anywhere else. So it's only when you're sort of in front of the fait accompli, you're in pain and you're like, what am I supposed to do to prevent this? I'm so pleased you're here today to share some tips.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. What brought my attention to you was when you did your snack challenge, which was brilliant. Because again, like you say, it's usually after the event that we start thinking, oh, like, we hit menopause and we start putting on weight or whatever, and we start thinking, oh, maybe I need to consider my diet. Whereas actually, if we'd had that information before, and if you went to the doctors, they probably wouldn't give you, yes, they'll say you need to change your diet, but they don't really tell you how. Absolutely. And I love that about your group. It really, you're so practical and give such good advice that is actually manageable. And I think that's really important. So yeah, I think it's great.
Thank you for the feedback. That's really great.
I love it when you do your little lunchtime lives, I call them. And you sort of tell us what you're having and how you're doing it, and it can inspire us to do that as well. It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. That's really what this is all about. So that's fantastic. So if anyone is watching later on a replay or on Sarah-Joy's website, you know, wherever you're going to share this interview, and you obviously want to join the Facebook group, then it's called Hormone Harmony, and I'm sure Sarah-Joy will share the details with you. But yes, you're all welcome to join. And likewise, Sarah-Joy, your group is amazing too. You share a huge amount of information, so it's fantastic. So today we just want to give some kind of quick advice, don't we? With quick tips around particularly focusing on sugar and what it does on, you know, on our teeth. So why is it so important to consider our sugar intake, and what
Yeah.
should we be doing if we do have sugar in our diet?
Well, sugar has an impact in a couple of ways, really. So it has that really direct impact. So this is literally sugar that we consume, and it's touching our teeth as it goes in, and that will cause tooth decay. And it's actually a combination of plaque bacteria that lives in the mouth, combined with the sugar in our food and drink, and it creates acid. And this is a very kind of localized action that happens in the mouth. And when our teeth are under acid attack, our teeth are losing minerals. And it takes about an hour for our mouth to recover from that acid attack, or we could call it a sugar attack, because it's basically the sugar that has caused it. And then once the mouth is not under that acid attack anymore, so it's returned to a neutral pH, our teeth start remineralizing.
I see.
If over the course of a day, remineralization is greater than demineralization, make sure I get it the right way around, then our teeth will survive the day. Whereas if demineralization is greater than remineralization, we're going to start getting tooth decay. So in terms of sugar for our teeth, what's important is keeping the number of times we have sugar throughout the day to a minimum. So what we would normally say is keep sugary food and drinks to meal times only. So then you're only having those 3 sugar attacks a day.
Right. So sorry, can I give an example? Somebody is sipping, let's say, on a, you know, sugary drink and making it last for 2 hours or so, you know, that would be detrimental, right?
Exactly that. And drinks are a killer for it. If you put sugar in your coffee and you're having 3 coffees a day, it's more likely you're having them in between meals. So and if you have like a packet of mints, let's say, and you're just grazing on them one at a time, that's going to cause a lot more damage than if you just have the whole pack in one go straight after your meal.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And is there anything you can do straight after having a sugary snack to kind of help your teeth, apart from brushing your teeth? Is there anything else you can do?
Well, funnily enough, I'd actually recommend not brushing your teeth, because while they're under that acid attack, they're more vulnerable.
Right.
So if you go in there with your toothbrush and start brushing, you could potentially cause more damage. Not tooth decay damage, but you could damage your teeth with wearing them away. So I would actually recommend it's better to brush before you eat something sugary, because you're removing the plaque bacteria, and it's the plaque combined with the sugar that causes the problem. But you don't want to be brushing teeth every time you're going to have something to eat, because it kind of ruins the flavor of what you're eating.
That's true.
So I don't do that. I do brush my teeth obviously before I have my breakfast in the morning, but then I don't brush them again until bedtime. So what you could do, just make sure you drink plenty of water, so you're literally just washing the food away, because you don't want the food hanging around in your mouth. And actually chewing xylitol chewing gum, so sugar-free gum, can be quite useful as well. But in all honesty, it's about limiting the number of times you're having sugar. And I'm sure you would really agree with that as well. You'd probably rather we just cut sugar altogether. So that kind of leads me on to the other problem with sugar. So here, when we're talking about our teeth, it's literally the sugar that is in the food. So let's say sucralose or something like that, sucrose. Or sugar that you add
Mm.
in
So
granulated forms.
would fruit be considered?
Fruit is actually okay for your teeth
Uh-huh.
in its natural form,
Okay. So
whereas
eating
it,
apple is okay.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, you might get a bit of erosion, so that's something completely different. But the fructose in fruit
Mhm.
is different to different, more processed sugars,
Sure. Okay.
and it's all to do with where it's digested in the body. However, if the fruit has been juiced, so now it's a drink,
Mhm.
or if it has been dried, so for example with raisins,
Yeah.
that's going to cause a lot more damage because the sugar has been kind of released. It's more processed,
Right.
so that will cause damage to your teeth. So it
Okay.
depends on the form of the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that sugar will do, and this is much more where your advice comes in as well, because like unregulated blood sugars
Mm-hmm.
will have an impact on your gums.
Oh, tell me.
Yes. So gum disease is it literally is just inflammation of the gums,
Hmm.
and that is caused by a buildup of plaque. Plaque being the bacteria that we all have in our mouth.
Right.
If we don't remove that plaque properly, the bacteria will cause the gums to become inflamed. When the gums are inflamed, they're quite delicate,
Mm-hmm.
and the bacteria from our mouth can get into our system and work its way around the body. So this is where we can get affected in other areas of our body.
Right.
You may have heard of gum disease being connected to the general health. So that's how that connection works.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if we have raised blood sugars, that can feed that in the blood system, it will come to our gums and it will feed the bacteria in the mouth. And
Right.
so that can cause problems. It will make the gum disease more prevalent, basically.
So basically, what
Um,
you're saying is, sorry to interrupt. So basically, you're saying that not only sugar affects our teeth directly, but it also, like I talk a lot about blood sugar
yeah,
balancing,
yeah,
but that blood sugar level, when it rises, also has an impact in creating that plaque that we're trying to reduce.
yeah,
Okay, so there's two ways that sugar is affecting the body,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So, and often we don't think of both of those things.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, and there's connection to hormones, everything. So yeah, and again, I think you can regulate your hormones with good blood sugar regulation. Is that right?
Yes.
So yeah, and gum disease will be worse if you've got very unregulated hormones. So there's so much diet wise that you can do to help your mouth, but the cause of the problem is always the plaque. It's just that if you don't have a well controlled lifestyle, let's say, if you're not generally healthy, a smaller amount of plaque is going to cause more damage.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah.
How interesting. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
Mind blowing, isn't it? How
Yeah.
but coming back to the way you were saying about having, if you are going to consume something sweet, because let's face it, I know you mentioned, oh, let's remove sugar out of the diet. It's nearly impossible, right? Because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Allow people to have their treat if they want to, but it's understanding, when should you have it and what should you do before or after, you've had it. So it's interesting because in France, where I'm from, we tend to have these 3 squares meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it never used to be, a habit to snack in between these
Mhm.
meals. And actually it helps in these two areas, it helps with your teeth. And also the fact that when you're eating something sweet at the end of a meal where you've had your protein, you've had your fiber, you've had all your different food groups, actually eating something sweet, your body is going to manage it much better when it comes to blood
Mhm.
sugar balancing than if you
Yeah.
have a chocolate bar at 4 o'clock in the afternoon with a bottle of your favorite, drink. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting, isn't it, to look at this
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Are there any other foods that are particularly you know, damaging for our teeth?
Yes, if we're not looking at just sugar, then acid is going to be quite damaging to the teeth as well.
Yeah.
And that doesn't so much cause tooth decay or gum disease, but it literally can just dissolve the teeth away. So this is where fizzy drinks can be a problem,
Okay.
but also fruit juices. And again, fruit juice will contain a lot of sugar as well. Okay, we think, oh, it's a natural sugar, but in terms of our teeth, it's still causing damage. And I imagine it's still causing damage for our blood sugars as well.
Indeed, indeed. It is pure sugar, you know, it does
Yeah,
turn into glucose, pure
yeah,
glucose. You remove the fiber, you know, your body will take it as pure glucose, and then if it doesn't know what to do with it, that's when
yes,
it turns it into fat around our vital
exactly.
things.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So limiting those drinks, even squash, the ones that say no added sugar,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean there's no sugar in there. It's so upsetting the way things are marketed, and you think you're doing the right thing, but
Yeah.
actually it's still causing damage. And again, it can really be damaging to the teeth. If
Yeah.
you've got young children, don't, whatever you do, put juice or squash or fizzy drinks in bottles, because that's going to be terrible for the teeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And what do you think about diluting juices? Because sometimes I will give my daughter vitamins, and for her to take it, I need to make it palatable. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that think that way. So I only put literally a little drop of juice in a glass of water to give it flavor. Is that better than just
Yeah, when you say juice, do you mean squash or do you mean like a
no,
natural juice?
natural juice? Yes.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And it
Great.
should be, I think the concentration, I can't remember off the top of my head now, but maybe 1 to 10.
Yeah. It
So
literally.
really dilute, yeah,
Mm,
and
yeah.
that's going to be a lot less damaging, and especially if she has it with a meal as well, rather
Yeah.
than in between, which I'm
Yes.
sure that would be better for the vitamin uptake anyway, would it?
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed. Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know more than I think.
And the other thing as well is she drinks her juice with a straw. So would you recommend that that protects the teeth, would you say, or is that not really? Not.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of people saying that. It depends, I think, how you drink.
Yeah.
So if the idea with the straw is that it's not coating your teeth so
Mm.
much, it's going to the back of your mouth and you're swallowing it straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've got this terrible habit of when I drink, I swish my drink around my mouth. I don't know why I do that. And sometimes I think, why, can't you just stop that? But it's just a natural instinct. So if you're swishing your drink around your mouth, whether you're using a straw or not, it's gonna damage your teeth.
Okay.
And if in between meals she could stick to water only, that's going to be so much better.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like in those drinks bottles and things, just put water in those. Milk is fine, like
Okay.
good old-fashioned cow's milk.
Okay.
So long as we're not having it last thing at night.
Ah, that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything that we can, ideally you want to stop consuming anything for about an hour before you go to bed.
Thanks.
Because essentially it's your saliva that neutralizes the acid.
Mm-hmm.
When we sleep, our salivary glands shut down,
Mm-hmm.
so the saliva is not available to neutralize that acid, and then we end up with having a prolonged acid attack overnight.
Right.
And so ordinarily lactose in milk is safe for the teeth, but
Mm-hmm.
at night time it can damage them for that reason.
Right. Well, I'm glad I'm
Yeah.
not giving my daughter milk before she goes to bed. Although she probably could do with it because she finds it hard to fall asleep. But I've never gone down that route. I didn't want to start that. I didn't think it was a good idea. So
Yeah,
yeah, interesting. Oh,
yeah. So
so
sorry, no, I was just thinking of that old thing of like, oh, a hot chocolate before bed. Well, that's going to be a killer for your teeth.
yeah.
Yeah.
So would it be okay to drink one and then brush your teeth, but then not really because your teeth are under
Mm,
attack, right?
yeah. It would be
Mm,
much better to have it after your tea, for example, like after
right.
dinner.
Yes.
I know it doesn't hold necessarily the same appeal, but that would be much better in terms of your teeth.
Mm,
And if you really need to have it later in the evening, then at least 1 hour before going to sleep.
right.
And I
Okay.
would leave it, if you can, that hour before you brush your teeth as well.
Okay, that's a good tip. So
Yeah.
say, I'm a big fan of dark chocolate. I'll admit, I'm sure there's lots of people will be watching and be thinking, yes, how about my sweet treat that I have in the
Yeah.
evening? So is dark chocolate, let's say anything above 70%, is that, would you, again, how would you do that? So would you have it just again an hour before going to bed and before brushing your teeth? Is that the guide that you would
Yeah.
end?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
one
it's
hour.
still going to contain sugar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't matter what form the sugar is in. All in terms of our teeth, all sugar is sugar.
Yeah.
And so again, if you can have it directly after your meal, that's going to be a lot better. If that doesn't hold the same appeal, then yeah, try to do it at least an hour before bed and before brushing your teeth.
Yeah, so straight
Yeah,
after the meal is the best option.
yeah,
Perhaps.
yeah,
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 great. Excellent. How interesting. Wow.
yeah,
Really, really.
yeah. So
It is- Hmm.
in terms of snacking,
Hmm.
like, because I find it particularly difficult with my kids,
Mhm.
and I was fine until they kind of went out into the big wide world and went to school, and they discovered all these things that I'd never really introduced them to. And particularly as they get older, and obviously I want them to be independent enough to make their own choices. But do they really need to snack? Or
It's, it depends basically, but what I'm
mm,
finding is that there's a lot of young children that perhaps don't eat a huge amount at lunchtime, for whatever reason. I mean, I've heard
yeah,
stories of kids having to queue and then getting to the buffet and there's nothing left apart from pizza, or, I've heard all
yeah,
sorts of things. So these children are ravenous when they leave school. I don't know if
mhm,
your children are like that, but I know my daughter is, because she's quite fussy. She's quite, there's a lot of things she doesn't eat. So I know that I need to be there at the school gate with some food.
yeah.
So,
Otherwise, it's meltdown.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. If I want to come home in one piece, I better have some food. And what I tend to recommend is, if the kids are hungry, and this applies for adults as well, eat real food. Just have, what's in your fridge, and make yourself a little, not packed lunch, but a kind of snack, with real food, with
Yeah.
cheese or some ham or something filling, and as opposed to go for that chocolate bar or that packet of crisps that has next to no nutrition. Yeah.
Mm,
That's what I would say. If they get home, and I'm a big fan of smoothies, you might say, oh, it's not good for your teeth, but
mm,
again, if it's done in the right way, it can be really, really nutritious. You can pack in some protein powder in there and some healthy fat, and it just means that they feel, their energy is back, and they could do their homework and they could carry on
mm,
with their day. So that's what
mm.
I would say. Just go for real food if you're
Yeah.
hungry, and if your children are hungry after school,
Yeah.
try not to be tempted by these, I don't know, biscuit bars, like,
Yeah.
energy bars or whatever, because that will be packed full of sugar and not a huge amount of, again, nutrition that we need to, for energy.
Yeah.
So real food.
Yeah. It always boils down to that, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Because ultimately the real food isn't the same level of sugar in it. But
Mhm.
it's also because what worries me with my kids, particularly one of my kids, seems to love salt.
Okay.
So he will love having like peanuts,
Aha.
roasted peanuts.
Yes.
But and I'm fine with that in terms of his teeth. But
Mm.
then I think, oh, the level of salt in that is really high. And my boys would probably rather go for salty things, whereas
Right.
my daughter definitely sweet.
Okay.
And so I do struggle sometimes with, oh, what can I give them as a snack
Yes.
that they would find palatable and want to eat, that
Yeah.
that's cool enough in some
Yeah.
ways.
It's interesting, because when I think back of when I was growing up, in France. Okay, I grew up on a farm, you know, so we were growing all our vegetables and everything. So we ate very good, you know, meals, main meals.
Yeah.
And when we used to come home from school, we did have a snack, and it was a slice of bread, and obviously in France, really nice bread. Okay, that's not going to
Yeah.
cause bloating or anything because I've got tons of preservatives. Slice of bread and some dark chocolate, and a piece of fruit. Usually, that was
Yeah.
kind of, you know, very basic, but at least you know what you're getting. You know what you're
Yeah.
eating. So
Yeah.
actually, you know, your peanuts, that yes, when they come ready salted, it's very, very high in salt. So I would definitely
Mm.
try and limit that. But an alternative is to have a piece of toast with some peanut butter on it. And if you
Yeah.
want that little salty, it could just sprinkle a little bit on his toast, and it will still be a lot less than in a packet, you know, of ready
Yeah.
peanut.
Because
So
you're in control of how much is
yeah,
going on. Yeah, that's a great idea.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And then, you know, peanut butter with like fruits, you know, on top, like bananas or pears, or that makes a really nice snack, and it's filling. It will just keep them
Mm.
going until dinner time. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna try that. They're gonna be like, "Ah."
Might- You may want to find some really cool videos on TikTok or something, or someone
Yeah.
doing it, and then they'll be on it. They'll be telling you what to put on your toast.
That's 100% true. Yeah, I'll have to do that.
They'll, they'll be like, bananas is so yesterday. Here is what I put on my peanut butter, and I don't see, but you know.
Yeah.
But yes, the whole salt thing is quite and like you say, probably doesn't damage your teeth, but it will affect your health, your cardiovascular health, you know. So
Mm.
we need some, and I think it's like anything, you know, it's like different food groups. It's not good to cut things out completely, but with salt, you want to go for a mineral, you know, mineral salt, like a sea salt, or that has lots of minerals that are actually really good for us, or like Himalayan salt, you know, the
Oh,
pink
yeah.
one. Put a little bit of that, and that's actually good for us. But yeah,
Mm.
to limit the kind of processed, you know, highly
Yeah.
bleached, you know, salt that you find.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting because I always wonder whether these sort of like fancy alternatives are actually any better, but clearly they are, and it's
Yeah,
worth going for the extra.
with anything, you know, with any kind of superfood, that's what we call them,
Mhm.
right? It's, you know, we probably have, you know, an option close to home. Obviously, Himalayan, you know, salt is, you know, comes from, as in the name calls, you know, quite far away. So if you're
Yeah.
concerned about, you know, mileage and things like that, you know, food mileage, a good sea salt is as good, you know, it will have
Mhm.
a different nutrition profile, but it's totally as good. Anyway, completely off topic here, but you know.
Well, no, it's useful for everyone because I think if we have these questions,
Yes.
then other people will have these questions as well. And it's something I've really noticed. They seem to either have quite a sweet tooth or they go for the salty stuff.
Mm.
And I'm always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this salt is probably just as bad as the sugar. It's just that I happen to know about the sugar, you know,
Yeah,
and it does worry me. And sometimes I think, what alternatives can we do, really?
absolutely. No, no, you're
Yeah,
right. You're right to ask these questions. Yeah. Did you have
yeah.
other questions around snacking and
Well, that was my main one really, and sort of suggestions for snacks. But I think you know you've covered some of those.
Mhm.
And also I know I'm sorry, I'm being quite like child friendly here, but you often mention that your daughter's quite fussy,
Yes.
and like how do you manage her diet?
Oh, that's such a good question. Forever challenge. I think
Yeah.
basically, you know, from when she turned 9 months old, so we adopted our daughter. Okay, so she was 4 months old when she came to us, and at the age of 9 months, it basically made me understand that she didn't want to be spoon fed anymore. It was like, no more.
Mhm.
She wanted to eat with her fingers, which is great, that's
Yeah.
fine, but it just meant that she became very much in control of the food that passed her mouth. And
Yes.
so from that point, it became quite challenging. So I kind of did lots of research, and I thought, wow, as a nutritionist, I must sort this out. And, you know, actually the big lesson for me and for everyone else is to relax and to not, you know, really try and force your kids to eat anything, because it just doesn't work. It backfires after a while. So
Yeah.
I try to go with it, and unfortunately it's still the case today, but you know, I've tried to introduce different things, and I think what I've understood is for her, texture is a really big thing, and also whether a food is hard or soft. So whether, you know, she has issues chewing, or, you know, if the food is soft, she's more likely to eat it. So a big lifesaver has been pancakes for me. And
Okay.
I make all sorts of pancakes. I make beetroot pancake, spinach pancake, sweet potato. As long as they're sweet, she'll eat them.
Wow.
Okay? But she won't eat vegetables. She will only eat, say, carrots and potentially red peppers if she's really hungry and she's distracted by a screen. That's when she'll nibble on something.
Yeah.
But she's very much, I don't want any vegetables on my plate. And we thought, that's fine, but there's a few things that I need you to give a go. And the pancakes has always been, yep, that's fine, I can cope with that. So we've gone down that route. And so, you know, with children that are very choosy with what they eat, is instead of looking on a day-to-day basis in terms of their intake, is look across a whole week, because you'll find that actually they will eat what they need in a way.
Mm.
And it's quite surprising, but I have an example. We took her on a holiday to see my parents in France, and my dad was growing these beautiful cherry tomatoes, really stunning, you know, growing in the sun and really tasty.
Yeah.
And all week we're like, Lucy, do you want to try? Do you want to try? Do you want to try? No, 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 no. And then it came to the end of the week, and she probably ate 15 in one sitting. And my dad was like, oh, I said, don't ask. I don't know why. I don't know what's happening today, but it's happened. So let's celebrate, but let's not make a big deal of it. She needed it. She hadn't had eaten, like, she didn't have any vegetables all week. And that's the challenge with holidays, right? Because you can't say, make the food you want to make.
Yeah.
But her body just was asking for it.
Craving it.
She tried one, and that was it. So just, you know, inspire your children, keep eating the food that you love eating. I still eat my salads, and she goes, oh mommy, it looks horrible. It's fine, we keep eating the food we love. She eats the food she loves. There's no stress around food. And yes, I do give her supplements, because otherwise she will be deficient in various things. But I want her to grow up with a good enough, you know, good relationship with food, with
Yeah.
her repertoire, with what she likes.
Yeah.
At least she gets excited when I make certain things. And for me,
Yeah.
that's great. And then hopefully
Yeah.
grow out of it, you know? I hope
Yeah.
that helps.
That really I think that's a lovely approach to it, because I've seen so many people that get really stressed about you know, that, but mainly their children not eating enough.
Yes.
And if you're on the outside observing it, it's a lot easier to see. But when you're in it yourself and
Yes.
it's your child, you can't see that. And it you know, it gets you really, really stressed.
That's right.
And then the child picks up on that 100%. And you don't want it to become a problem for the future, and you also don't want it to become a problem for the connection between you.
Indeed.
So I think that approach is lovely, and it's really, really reassuring to hear it from someone who is so passionate about nutrition, because it must be really, it's a bit like me and teeth. I find it really hard if they want to do things that I know are going to damage their teeth.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for me not to be stressed about that,
Yes.
because that's my passion. And it's really nice that you're saying the same thing about their nutrition.
Yes.
And it kind of almost takes the pressure off me a little bit, because I think, okay, this is someone who really knows, who has said that,
Yeah. And
you know, you have to do what you do, but
that's it. And, you know, talking about sweets, for example, right, which is your area, yeah? How do I manage that with my daughter? Okay. So obviously, you know, you've got the people that are super strict and no sweets, da 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 da. But actually, when they are offered sweets, then they go crazy, right? Because they're like,
yes,
oh my goodness, I never have this. So I'm just gonna
yes,
binge, basically, right?
yeah,
So with my daughter, I know that sugar affects her mood massively. And so we do have times where I need to say to her, you need to eat this so that, you know, you feel good, basically.
Yeah.
And so she's still little, but I think she's starting to understand slowly that, you know, she needs to eat certain food. And
Yeah.
sometimes she'll say, okay, fine, you know, I'll eat this, you know, because I know it's good for me. Um,
Mm.
but I don't force her. We do talk about it. And the thing with sweets is for a long time, well, we don't tend to buy sweets anyway, just,
Yeah.
you know, from my background. And even though I ate sweets when I was a kid, in fact, I used to eat a lot of sweets, even in my 20s.
Mm.
I used to have a bit of a sugar addiction, actually.
Mm.
And but with Lucy, I thought, you know, for as long as I could, I'd try not
Yeah.
to introduce sweets. And then obviously you've got the birthday parties and the Halloween and the this and the that and the other. And you can't say to your child, you can't have it. You
Mm.
know, you can't,
Mm.
right? So we have a cupboard that's got sweets in it. We gather all these things, and I'm like, oh, some of it goes in the bin. um, don't tell her that. Seriously, some do, because
Yeah.
I will never chuck
It's
chocolate
too
away,
much.
but some of the stuff is really is pure sugar. It's got,
Yeah.
you know. So there is a cupboard, and we've only recently introduced Friday treats. She asked for it, and I didn't want to say no to it. So she has
Mm.
one. She just picks one thing, and you know what? She's perfectly happy with it, you
Mm.
know? And during the week, she knows we don't have sweets, so she doesn't ask for them. They are in the
Yeah.
cupboard,
Yeah.
but I think that's quite a nice way. And then obviously, as they grow up and become teenagers and want to go to the sweet shop, you won't be able to stop them. But hopefully, they will know by then what feels good and what doesn't feel so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, my son, he I've got one who kind of would just go for it anyway. But apart from anything, just to be in with the crowd, maybe. And then another one who was like, and I was trying, because they don't necessarily have money to spend in the shop, but then their friends want to buy them things. And he was saying, I was trying to say, no, I don't want all these sweets because they're really bad for my teeth. And I wanted to explain to them how bad it was for their teeth, but they weren't really interested or listening. And so I've ended up with all this stuff, and I don't really want it because I don't want to damage my teeth. And I thought, oh, taught him well. Because they will come against these problems, and they will be faced with their own money, their own choices, obviously. And as you say, like, I can't get over how many opportunities there are in school where they're just given sweets and
Yes.
chocolate and biscuits, and I find it quite unbelievable that
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
managed.
Mm-mm.
And the only way I feel that you can get round it is educating them without ramming it down their throat.
That's it.
But
That's it.
and letting them make their own choices. So I will say, well, you can have it now, but it would be much better if you save it and have it later. Or if you're going to eat it now, I want you to eat it all in one go.
Yes.
Or because think of your teeth and the impact that will have.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's all very well and good for us. We've got that knowledge, so we can impart it to our children.
Mhm.
But not everybody does, and that's why it's so great doing things like this,
Yeah.
because hopefully people can learn from us
Exactly. Exactly.
and sort of,
Amazing. Oh my word. How exciting. I mean, like we said, you know, we could talk for a long time about this topic. And
yeah,
I think we were, you know, we were chatting earlier. I think it's okay to share that, you know, the idea of potentially doing a bit of a workshop or a kind of a 2 or 3 part series around this topic and going a little bit more in depth. We're giving more advice from your side, perhaps from my side on the nutrition side. I think that will make a really interesting workshop. So that's, you know, watch this
yeah,
space, people who want.
amazing. Yeah, because there's so much we could offer on the hormone side. And we've spoken a lot about children's teeth today, but there's so much more we could actually talk about for our adults, adult mouths, and
Indeed.
how the mouth and the general health is all connected. So I would love to work with you and do something like that. It'd be amazing.
Fabulous, fabulous. So for anyone who's watching either now or later, you know, if you have questions around this topic, around what we've talked about today, or what you would like us to cover. You know, perhaps you've got some concerns, you've got some, you know, particular health issues that you want, you know, related to your teeth, or post your comments below this video, wherever you see this. We're going to share it, I think, in different places. And yeah, and we're going to put something together. And I'm really, really interested in this topic because it can make such a difference. You know, only the other day, I stood in the reception area in my daughter's school, and this mum in front of me was saying to the receptionist, my son is going to hospital, dentist, maybe dentist, to have one tooth removed. And, you know, these children, this is a primary school, right? So having a tooth removed at that age is, I would imagine, quite traumatic, would you say?
It depends how it's managed, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But it's if a child needs multiple extractions, which is quite often the case, they would end up going to hospital, and it's quite surprising. But the for children aged 6 to 10, being hospitalized for dental treatment is the high. I'm not explaining this very well, but that's the highest reason that they end up in hospital.
That is just
shocking.
Yes.
Yeah. It breaks my heart, and I've been there in the operating room watching that, and it is absolutely devastating for something that we can prevent.
That's it. No, that's absolutely fine. So I think to conclude today, because I think it's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think if you were to share 3 top tips of what people can do today to look after their teeth and their kids' teeth, what would they be?
Number 1, learn to brush your teeth properly, so it's effective and not causing any damage. Do that twice a day. Once at bedtime, that's the most important, and then at one other time during the day. When you brush, use a fluoride toothpaste, and don't use any water, so you're spitting out and not rinsing afterwards, so the fluoride stays on the teeth. Oh, it's hard to think of only 3. I guess my 3rd one would be keep all sugary food and drinks to meal times only. And if you can, reduce the overall intake of sugar.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah-Joy. And by the way, a beautiful name.
Oh, thank you very much. You too.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So thank you for your time, and for anyone who's watching, please put a little heart or a little like on the video in the group if you're watching in the group, so that more people can see the video. And then if you're watching later and you have any questions, feel free to reach either Sarah-Joy, I'm going to share her details below, or myself, and watch this space. I think we will be chatting again very soon.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're very
Bye.
welcome. Take care. Bye.